Welcome, everybody, to this newest edition of the Silver Screen Action Figure Podcast. This is your host, André Joseph, and happy holidays. I'm back once again with my co-host for today, Mr. Jesse Jobin. Say hello.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Good to be back.
So on today's topic, we're going to be talking about all things Power Rangers and beyond. But before we do that, I want to talk about some of the big news that came about in the last couple of weeks, and that was the launch of Disney Plus, which I promised we would talk about a few weeks ago on the Facebook page. So it just launched earlier this month, or actually late last month, and so far it's been quite interesting. A huge treasure trove of old school Disney movies and shows. You have your Star Wars, you have your Marvel, all the properties that Disney owns now. And so far it's been a pretty good start, if you ask me.
Yeah, I checked it out a little bit. I love that they have all the Star Wars movies in 4K. If you have that type of television, I totally recommend checking those out. My go-to was Darkwing Duck when I first checked out the service. All those Disney afternoon shows are great. Gargoyles, X-Men the 90s series, Spider-Man, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's just really amazing to go back for all those things. And certainly the big highlight at the moment is The Mandalorian. I think it's single-handedly saved the Star Wars franchise after years of the divisiveness amongst fans with the current crop of movies they've released.
Yeah, I think The Mandalorian's definitely going to help the ticket sales of the new movie coming out December 20th. I'm all about the Baby Yoda. I'm all about the familiarity of the Mandalorian. He looks like Boba and Jango Fett. That armor. I feel like that's kind of gives you that nostalgic effect to think of the old movies. I think this show takes place between Return of the Jedi and the newer trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, it still stays within the world that George Lucas created, but it offers something that's new and different and still familiar in terms of the fact that it is a Western in the Star Wars world. And I think a lot of it has to do with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who are first and foremost fans. And I think it's something that's been missing with these films is there's been so much of the retrofitting of we got to copy beat to beat all the past movies. This doesn't happen here. It stands on its own. It's really amazing. And even though, like the WWE Network, the Disney Plus, it's got its kinks. I'm not going to go back and watch every single Disney movie or cartoon, although I will say it's like a big time machine when it comes to all those old school Marvel shows and even some of the, like, all the Disney films that they have on there, Mighty Ducks and heavyweights, like all the stuff that I used to like that I can find right here.
Yeah, it's more just about it's just the nature of the beast of what we are now. It's like instant gratification. You can turn on this app and have what you want to watch from your childhood at the palm of your hands in an instant. And I think that's what people like about having that service. Unless you have other means of getting these things, whether it be discs or however.
Yeah, I do wish that it had some of the old Star Wars cartoons, not the holiday special, that and the Ewoks movies. But other than those little nitpicks, I gotta say Disney Plus for me, it's like having hot chocolate on Christmas morning in a kid in 1992.
Yeah, I think the other Star Wars cartoons are available on Netflix still. They must own the rights. Cartoon Network must own those rights. That's probably why they're not on Disney Plus now.
Yeah, there's a number of licenses with Netflix with some of these shows that have to expire probably by middle of next year before they start to roll onto Disney Plus. So if you wonder why you're not getting the Clone Wars on there, that's the reason. And likely it's going to be more difficult with Indiana Jones or any of the Spider-Man movies because they're owned by different studios. But never say never. Business is changing constantly every year or every couple of years. Anything is possible. When it comes to Disney, the mouse always wins.
Yeah, they've pretty much bought up every property they can. We hit a close one with the MCU and Spider-Man. We almost lost them there.
Yeah, well, don't remind me. That was a stressful time this summer.
Before we move on, though, you said about the Mandalorian being a western, and that's always it's always a cool genre to watch. Uh, but like the last time I think of like a space western with like a bounty hunter, like it makes me think of Cowboy Bebop,
Yeah.
which is like my favorite anime of all time. So it gives me those kind of vibes. I guess Baby Yoda's sort of like Ein the dog, or Ed.
Yeah, there's a few subtle nods to that type of stuff. So
Yeah,
that's one of the things I really enjoy. And also, I gotta mention they got some really amazing actors in this. I mean, obviously Pedro Pascal he's really doing the voice of the Mandalorian. He's not really
right.
physically in the suit, but look at the people you would never think would be in a Star Wars project: Carl Weathers, Nick Nolte. Oh my God, I didn't even
Yeah,
recognize
yeah,
him.
and
Yeah,
most people don't even recognize that that's him.
yeah, Amy
And
Sedaris,
yeah,
and
the
yeah,
most recent episode had Ming Na Wen. If you're not familiar with
yeah,
her, she's
Agent
been on
May.
Agents of Shield.
Hmm.
I just think of Chun Li when I think of when
Yes.
I think of her. But
So yeah, it's so much fun, and I think as they start bringing in more Star Wars projects, more the Marvel TV shows, it's going to get even more exciting over the course of the next couple of years. So Power Rangers, let's begin with that. Um, Jesse, you know a lot more than I do. I haven't really been as big of a fan over time, except for those first 3 years when it was on the air. But you're very aware of the origins of how it first began
yeah.
overseas.
So like the Super Sentai genre has been out since about like 1974 or so. The first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers we got is actually the 16th series in the that line. So we didn't get like 15 series before that in America. It just started from there. Um, we didn't find out until later on that there was actually a prior pilot to Day of the Dumpster on the bonus footage of the Power Rangers DVDs. It had Miguel Nunez as Zach Taylor, the Black Ranger. He actually was the Green Ranger in the original pilot. Not Tommy, but like the series was based off of a series called Bioman. But then the second pilot was with the Zhu Ranger footage. Zhu Ranger is the suits we see in Mighty Morphin, and that all that footage that's Zhu Ranger. Um, but yeah, Mark Dacascos, who's like the host of Iron Chef, and he was in Double Dragon as well, amongst other things. Um, yeah, so there were a few familiar faces in that, but then the actual pilot we got had totally different. It had the original cast except for Chui Trang, who plays Trini. We had a different actress named Audrey Dubois Marichono. But the story I hear is they're all non-union, and she asked for a little pay raise or whatever. I think it was because they were doing their own stunts, so maybe they wanted a little pay raise. But yeah, they didn't end up keeping her. We get Chui Trang, who plays Trini, from who we know, and yeah, that's where we start from there. We have our 5 original cast.
Yeah, I remember the first couple of commercials for it. Back then in 1993, with the Fox Kids network, the two big shows, Batman the Animated Series and X Men. Me, and my cousins, we watched those shows
Yeah, who
religiously.
didn't?
Yeah, Tiny Toons, you had Animaniacs. I mean, it was
Yeah,
just the greatest time to be a kid
great
on
time to
Time
be a
Warner.
kid.
And here was these promos for a live action show, and you didn't really see much except for like 5 teenagers with their morphers saying dinosaur names, and then seeing like this big giant Zord, and we instantly thought Voltron.
Hmm.
This is a knockoff of Voltron mixed with Saved by the Bell. Like, what the hell is this? So we really didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And then, we would see some of the toys and Toys R Us, the 8-inch dolls, but they were pretty much sitting on the shelves because the show hadn't come out yet. Nobody knew what it was. Everybody was going out and buying Batman figures.
Yeah.
And then I remember it was around August. It was my birthday, and the pilot episode aired that
Yeah,
Saturday.
I think it was like August 28th. I think is the premiere date in the USA. Because it
Yeah.
was like a week before my birthday.
So yeah, it was definitely like my birthday
Yeah.
weekend, and my cousins were over, and this show was on. I think it was on right after X Men, so we watched it, and we were hooked. I mean, literally, the martial arts scenes, the Zords, the putties, everything about it, even as cheap as it may look today, we were excited as hell. And then we ended up going to the backyard and we started fighting each other because we suddenly like wanted to be those kids.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been enamored with martial arts. My dad was a martial artist, who, for those that don't know that. But, I've always been fascinated with, like, the Japanese culture. And, this show just caught my attention right away. Um, as far as the toys go, I didn't really care for the 8-inch figures, but I do have them at home now. But the automorphin ones, the flip heads, if you will, those were the ones that really caught my attention. You press the belt buckle, and then it turns from teenager to Power Ranger. And my mom and dad would take me to Woolworths. I'm showing my age there, but they would take me to Woolworths in Stapleton, and the cashier would open up the big glass, um, counter, and I would pick one, and like they came with these little weapons, and they had the little holsters for the guns, and they had these little pegs on their hands to hold the weapons, but they also came with like a rub-on tattoo you wet, and
I remember the tattoos.
it was the coin of the morpher, and you pick your favorite ranger pretty much. One thing that was cool. I was never a Green Ranger fan, but what I liked was the Green Ranger flip head automorphin figure
Yeah.
had the gold chest plate, and I used to always put it on Jason and Zach because that did happen in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm a Jason guy, and Zach's my second favorite, so I always like to give them the shield too. I did give it to Billy and the girls as well, but that was always a fun thing to do. Switch up the weapons and this and that. Oh yeah, and all the little weapons would form into their big blaster.
That's right.
Yeah, like Zach had the axe, and then Kimberly's bow would go on there, and then the sais and the lance, and then the dagger.
And you put them together, it'd
Yeah.
be like a rifle.
Yeah, all the little ones connected also with the toys, so that was always fun.
Yeah, I mean, like once that show hit, it was just like Ninja Turtles all over again. Every kid in America wanted those toys, and you couldn't go into any Toys R Us or KB where you just end up seeing those toys that were on the shelves back in the summer. Now you couldn't find them. If a Toys R Us opened up, they weren't even available. And if you did see them, like maybe if you went to Staten Island Mall and like they have those carts, you'd have to pay an extra fee for it, which was like ridiculous as hell. So I was fortunate to get a couple of the 8-inch dolls, but once those morphers came out, I said, the hell with the dolls. These are the ones that I want to get.
Yeah, I actually, you guys can't see it, but I have the '93 version of the Morpher, and like I think like the 2016 Legacy Morpher in front of us, and I wanted to show Andre just to show him like the quality, the difference in quality, like it's night and day. I mean, I would kill to have this Legacy Morpher as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has the Zhu Ranger logo on the back, and like it's like die cast metal. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it looks like an actual prop from the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, actually, I have the belt buckle at home. It comes with the belt buckle and the other coins.
Nice.
But like I said, I'm a Jason guy, so it's Tyrannosaurus all the way.
Yeah, I had two versions of the Megazord. So I had like a smaller scale version that it couldn't morph; it just could pull itself
Yeah,
apart.
I remember that one.
And then for Christmas, I got the bigger Zord where
Yeah.
it actually did morph into.
I remember that one too. Yeah, yeah, it was like the saber-toothed tiger and the Triceratops with the legs.
Yes.
And then the Mastodon was like the arms and the chest, and then the pterodactyl was the chest plate, and the Red Ranger was like the base, sort of.
Yeah. Now, when it came to the villains, I didn't collect as many of them. I had like the spider creature that they had in the smaller size, and I had Lord Zed, but I didn't really get as far because most of these villains would just get killed off instantly.
Yeah, I mean there are a handful of villains like people really remember. Like Pudgy Pig is always the one that stood out to me the most.
Yeah, it's a memorable episode.
Even in the recent line of the 25th anniversary Funko Pop series of Power Rangers, we get Zed and Rita Goldar, but we also get Pudgy Pig and Pumpkin Wrapper. Like they're just a handful that you really remember. But like Andre said, like they get killed off, so they were always like a second thought, really, except for the main crew. You know, Rita's crew.
Yeah, and then when you got into the second season, so now okay, we're all used to the five characters, and you also had Tommy and the Dragon Zord, the Green Ranger.
Yeah, he comes around like episode 15 or so.
Yeah, so like we're already all invested in this, and then a couple things happen. So first, Lord Zed becomes the main villain instead of Rita, and I thought he was a bigger threat for the
Well,
most part.
he's actually the first American-made monster of the series. Like he's not Japanese footage. Like he's original now, and I think they hit the nail on the head with everything about him. Robert Axelrod played the voice of Lord Zed. He just passed away recently. Rest in peace. Um, but like his skin is inside out. His brain is showing. He has like a metal rib cage and like a metal visor. His staff is pretty iconic with the Z. Like Rita had her staff to make her monsters grow. Zed used to throw like a grenade or use the electricity from his staff, which was always pretty cool. I did have a Zed figure. I believe the blue on the veins would glow,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember that correctly. But the figure was pretty cool as well. One of the few cool like monster figures.
Yeah, I mean everybody was pretty accurate for the most part, and that's one thing I did like about them. Now, of course, before we even get into the cast changes, it's always the elephant in the room when it comes to Power Rangers, with the fact that the casting was kind of interesting to
Yeah,
have.
the racial thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, oh, Jason is like an American Indian. Why was he red? Why was Zach the black guy? Why was Trini the yellow
Why
girl?
is the Jew Ranger blue?
Right. Yeah, I mean, as a kid and even today, like I don't look at people as based on color. That's just not what I do. So I definitely wasn't thinking about that as a kid. I did hear about it like later on. I was probably like in fourth grade, but I'm not an African American. Andre is, so I would think in his shoes he thought that Zach was pretty cool as the Black Ranger growing up. Somebody relatable.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched the show, every character had their own distinct personality, so you never really thought about the color of their skin. It was just you had characters you could identify with and say, "Oh yeah, so and so is my favorite." And it didn't really dawn on me with the racial stuff till like I was in high school. Like, whoa, what would like? I guess with cultures, they just think differently. They
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
really.
I don't know if it was ever confirmed that that was purposely done. If it was, that's pretty messed up. But I think maybe it was just kind of something that happened. Because if you remember what I said at the beginning of this podcast, the original Yellow Ranger wasn't even Chinese. She was Puerto Rican.
Mhm.
So are Puerto Ricans yellow? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't talk like that.
Well, somebody, and it's likely a dude, probably had a dirty mind when he decided the American girl should be pink. And they weren't thinking of a
Yeah,
pink dress.
I definitely wasn't thinking that way. I think I was like 8 years old when this show came out, so I definitely wasn't even thinking about that.
But yeah, I mean that second season, midway through, is where now the show was so popular they started airing episodes in the evenings. Like if they would do like a two
Yeah.
part episode, it would be
Well,
like a big event.
well, when Tommy arrives is when they actually did the Green with Evil miniseries. It was pretty cool because it's happening at like 8 o'clock at night, like every night for a week straight, and like that's like the coolest thing as a kid. Like I'm staying up late,
Yeah.
even though I got school tomorrow. I'm staying up till 8:30 and watching this because it's like a cool character arc.
Yeah,
Even
right
though
at
I'm
the
not
Simpsons.
like I'm not a Tommy guy, like I said, but that whole saga is pretty cool to watch. I mean, Jason does beat him in the end anyway.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I mean, it also was that season where, first of all, they changed the Zords. So now the original Megazord's destroyed,
right,
and now they get the Thunder Zord.
right. They have Thunder Zords in the second season, and Rita slips Zed a love potion, and they're married now.
Yeah, that's writing 101 for you guys.
I mean, it's a kid show. It's
It's a
it's
kid-
funny, whatever. At the time, it was funny.
But I mean, when they decided to change the actors, now at the time, my cousin was watching Entertainment Tonight, and there was something being said like Austin St. John and Walter Jones and Dory Drang were saying that they want to move on to other things, they want to do movies, but not understanding the business back then, being a filmmaker, I understand it now.
Right.
The fact that they were working in non-union conditions was the reason they left, because they weren't paid as well. They were working long hours, and obviously doing all those stunts, it's easy to get hurt. And I think they felt as the show got popular, they weren't getting their slice of the pie, and probably felt they deserved more. So that's why they left. And then you had three new actors come in, and again, now the audience is having to adjust, and they have to buy new toys.
Right.
That was really like, so in a weird way, the beginnings of when I stopped collecting, because it just was getting to that point where the more you started changing these things in the show, the more it was forcing me to spend my parents' money to get these things.
Well, I mean, as far as the merchandise goes, when we got the casting change, all they really did was change the three Automorphin figures to Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. You know, they still had the same Ranger color and flip head or whatever, but we didn't really get too much merchandise from those characters specifically, but we do end up getting the White Ranger, which
Yes.
which is a whole nother thing because his costume is actually from the following series of Zhu Ranger, which is Die Ranger. But they keep the costumes from Zhu Ranger because they basically don't want to change this formula that they have. That fans are already all in on this cast that they have and all in on these characters that they have. So the suits, they don't want to change it. It's too familiar. You don't want to change too much. But Tommy becomes the White Ranger, and he gets again like a cool gold plated chest piece. And but now in the show, they have to come up with more original content and film more stuff in the suits because Die Ranger never crosses over with Jew Ranger in Japan.
Yeah, and at that point, as the show became more popular, you start to have, some might say knockoffs, some might say they were inspired by Power Rangers, but you had a number of shows now that were sort of following in that trend. You had VR Troopers, they would have a toy line with Mattel, you had Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad by Playmates, and you had Masked Rider, which was not only a Bandai property, but it crossed over with Power Rangers.
Well, all of that stuff that you mentioned, I believe, is owned by Saban. Um, I guess he just wanted to kind of like strike gold twice or multiple times by using this Japanese footage and crossing it over to America, hoping that it would happen again with like the popularity of Power Rangers. Uh, but like Masked Rider, like you mentioned, is actually basically in that genre is called henshin, which is like transforming heroes or changing heroes. And Masked Rider, I believe, is like Kamen Rider Black. But Kamen Rider is a series that actually came out like before the original Sentai series of Power Rangers, which is like we're talking like 40, 45 years now in Japan, not here. We're up to like 26 years now here.
Yeah, so now then let's jump into the 1995 movie, because at that time we're talking about like, okay, when the movie The Page Master came out with Macaulay Culkin. Now I wasn't really a Macaulay Culkin fan at that point. Home Alone, that was like years ago, but I remember when they had the TV spot for it, and at the very tail end, they said if you go and see the movie, you're gonna see the trailer for the new Power Rangers movie. I'm like, wait, what? There's already a Power Rangers movie already? So we get this film the following summer. I'm not gonna say it's a masterpiece. It's not a work of art, but at that time, I think the biggest thing that upset me was the fact that it should have had not Tommy, Jason, Trini, and Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I just watched the movie yesterday because I knew I'd be here today recording. Uh, but like, I'm still salty about them even leaving the show, let alone not being in the movie. And I'm guessing at this point, because the movie is not considered canon with the show, that they must have been union workers at the time. So you figure that they're probably getting paid a little better than they were on the show. And unfortunately, Twee Trang, Austin St. John, and Walter Jones didn't get to, get a piece of that pie. You know, even though they put the work in prior to the movie. Um, but they had Paul Freeman in the movie
Yeah, for
playing
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
playing the main villain, Ivan Ooze. We get a new villain now. Zed and Rita are kind of an afterthought in the movie, but I still enjoy the movie for what it is. They Zordon ends up getting his ass kicked by Ivan Ooze, and Alpha uses the last of the power to transfer the Power Rangers to another planet in order to get this great power to heal Zordon because he's dying because his chamber is broken. And we meet Dulcia, who was originally cast as Mariska Hargitay.
Find the pictures.
Yeah, and there was another character with her who was like some sort of like possum or armadillo. I don't know if he was a villain or a good guy.
It's like a sidekick, but they cut the part out.
I mean, the picture I saw, it's like kind of weird, so I'm glad he didn't make it in the movie. But then we still like have the guy Mordant, who's a pig, and like he didn't really bring anything to the movie either. I don't know why he was in it for whatever reason. But the movie was fun, Ivan Ooze has all his cool catchphrases like "I smell teenagers" or "Where's my autograph book?" He had all those fun lines in the movie, and yeah, it's just a fun movie. But the CGI is horrible.
Yeah, that third act. I mean, come on.
The Zords are cool. Like I really like the Falcon Zord. Again, not a Tommy guy.
Yeah.
But like the wings of the Falcon Zord shooting the missiles. Like that's really cool to me.
Yeah, I also like there's just some stuff that I thought was unnecessary, like that whole skydiving sequence. It's like, what did they see Drop Zone months before? It's like, oh, it'd be cool to have a skydiving scene with all the Power Rangers, even though it doesn't move the plot.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the '90s, and like extreme sports is still a thing. So I guess they figure teenagers think skydiving's cool or whatever. That's fine. But I feel like that scene's very iconic because anytime I hear Higher Ground, I think of that scene, whether it's Stevie Wonder or the Chili Peppers. Like, that automatically comes to my mind.
I automatically think of, if you remember, there was like a contest at the time, like you could get your song in the movie.
You're talking about We're in Trouble.
Yeah, I fucking hate that song.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason I would think of that song is if I'm watching that movie. Yeah, it's a really bad song.
And we got a few toys out of it, as I remember. I had some of the... It was the Morphers, but now they look more metallic.
Yeah, the Morphers and the figures both got this metallic look. They weren't really anything special. I do remember the Ivan Ooze figure, and he wore like this cowl, like it almost looked like a purple dress. But I remember the figure not being like the way the other figures were, where you could move the joints. Like you could move the arms, but like he had no joints, and like he had no feet. Like it was just like he stood on the dress. Like it was just a flat bottom surface.
And then he come with like a can of ooze that
they actually came out with Ivan's ooze. Yeah, that was pretty cool though.
Yeah, but I don't think they did his Zord at the end of the movie.
No, we might have got the Hornator and the Scorpitron, but I don't think we got him fused with the Zord as a toy.
I also think, if I remember, didn't McDonald's do like a Happy Meal set?
Yeah, I actually loved those figures, collecting those figures. The Falcon Zord was a little weird though because it's like tiny and square. Where in the movie it's like this big majestic thing with like the wings that move. But like they were all in these little square Zords. But I loved collecting them. Actually, McDonald's just recently did like the 40th anniversary of the Happy Meal. They have the Red Ranger from that movie. So
I just wish they brought back the Batman toys from Batman Returns.
Yeah. Well, we're actually getting Batman Funkos coming up.
That's soon. Right. Yeah.
Of those movies you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll save that one for a future episode. Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you remember the command center headquarters?
Yeah, I mean, it was just your standard, like, it had, like, all the buttons and stuff that Alpha used to press, kind of like his little desk area. And I think that was the only Alpha figure that's the only way you could get the Alpha figure, is if you bought the command center. And, like, it just had Zordon's, face in the tube. Nothing really special, but, I guess now if you collect them, it'd be a nice display for, like, the Automorphin figures.
Yeah. I think after that, I mean, I didn't have that particular one. One of my neighbors did. But really, like I said, that's really at the point when I just stopped collecting. And
Well, I'm not sure of when it released, but there was the kind of like the Mighty Max play sets
oh yeah, I
where
remember
they were
collecting Mighty
like, it
Max.
was like the Morpher,
Hmm.
and like, each Ranger had its own little play set, depending on the color of the Ranger or whatever. Those were pretty fun at the time. Um, Something cool to collect. I'm all about collecting. I mean, I got like 500 Funko Pops. I'm all about nostalgia, so I could go on about this for days.
Yeah. Even the video games too, as I remember.
Yeah, I'm still a big Super Nintendo fanatic. I play that more than the newer systems. But I do have a story that always sticks in my mind. My parents bought me the Power Ranger video game, the first one for Super Nintendo. Um, and I used to stay up till midnight on Christmas waiting for my presents. Uh, I'm still probably a little guilty of it today. I'm just a big kid. But my parents waited up with me and gave me the game, and I just played it all night while they slept. And when they woke up in the morning, I was still playing it. Yeah, but I have all the games now for the Super Nintendo and Sega as far as the Power Ranger games go. The movie one was a little different because if you press like the L and R buttons, you could switch between the foreground and the background. If you remember that,
Vaguely,
yeah,
but
like they would flip from front to back. But that was like the first one that had the White Ranger. The Super Nintendo, the first one didn't have the Green Ranger. The only way you could play as the Green Ranger is if you had Genesis. Like, but that was more like a fighting game, like one on one,
right.
But the movie game for Sega, the soundtrack is really good. I know we spoke a little bit about it last time during the Terminator podcast, but something about the Sega's sound system, like it just made the music sound so much better.
Yeah, it's like even if you don't remember the games,
Yeah.
the soundtracks were
Yeah,
phenomenal.
like it had all those iconic Power Ranger songs in there, and like I was just listening to them on YouTube last night. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, personally for me, like I said, I stopped watching during the Dragon Zord season, so I don't really remember too much about the ones that came after. I do recall
Well,
the one where they teamed up with the Ninja Turtles when they had their live action show.
I mean, I could give you like a little brief synopsis of the ones that you're not familiar with. So, like at this point, like Rita created a love spell, and pretty much roofies Lord Zed, and they get married, and so they're like teaming up against the Power Rangers at this point. Uh, Rita's brother, Rito Revolto. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's like a skeleton, but he was also like a soldier. So like he's a skeleton, but he's like half painted camouflage, and then like the other half is just regular skeleton. But he's like a goofy character. But he ends up destroying the Zords at one point. Um, yeah, he puts like explosive device on there. Um, Rita's dad ends up coming and like pretty much saying like Rita and Zed can't beat up a bunch of teenagers. So he takes over.
Mhm.
He ends up blowing up the command center. Oh, before I jump into that, in season 3, we also get another replacement for one of the originals because Kimberly leaves.
Yeah,
There's an Australian girl named Catherine who Rita ends up putting a spell on. She can like transform into a cat and a human, whatever. But that's the we lose another OG Ranger at that point. So pretty much it's just Tommy and Billy that are left
yeah.
from the original cast. Um,
And Billy became a mentor at some point, right? He just stopped being the Blue Ranger.
well, Rita's Rita's dad is Master Vile, and he ends up throwing this like bomb down that reverses time, and all of them turn into children. And as we're like transitioning into season 4, which is not Mighty Morphin, it's Power Rangers Zeo. Um, Now these children go to different areas in time to collect the Zeo crystals or whatever. And the command center is like destroyed now, but they're also like underground now. So like Zordon and Alpha are downstairs. I don't know if it's ever mentioned, but like when Billy and Alpha, well, it wasn't Billy, it was Alpha and Zordon. They're working on the White Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're working on him, and like you see Billy looking through the vent. If you remember that.
Vaguely.
Like before the White Ranger debuted, you see a few episodes. Billy's looking through a vent, like the command center is like all dark or whatever, and you see him looking at the White Ranger or whatever. But I always wondered, is that where they were working on the White Ranger? Like, was that downstairs always there? You know, like a hidden. Like Zordon and Alpha are fucked up. Like they didn't tell anybody.
Taking kids.
Yeah, but so during this time they get turned into children. We get the alien Rangers of Aquitar. So they're alien Power Rangers. They're based on another Sentai series. They all have like these weird alien heads, but like the bottom half of their faces are like they look like humans, but they can't, like they have to get water or they'll die. Like they're from a Aquitar planet, you know, they need the water to survive. So we also lose another ranger at this time because Aisha stays in Africa where her Zeo crystal was, and we get Tanya to replace her as the Yellow Ranger.
It's like more cast turnover than Law and Order.
But like, you know, that's also another weird one too. I don't know if there's any backstory behind it, but like nobody made a big thing about the racial undertones there. Like, you know, this kid from Africa or whatever replacing the black girl, like, you know, whatever. I don't even want to get into that. But yeah, so then we move into Zeo, which is now they have all new suits, all new Zords. They're downstairs in the command center now. Yeah, like you said, Billy does become a mentor at one point. He ends up leaving with one of the alien rangers. Like, he falls in love or whatever. So I guess he's still an Aquitar, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I could give you from that season besides... you probably know, but like they bring Jason back as the, you know, there's always that 6th Ranger, the Special Ranger that gets the cool armor. So now I'm super happy because Jason finally gets his shine. Like, they make Tommy go back and like they need his help because there's an alien called Trey of Triforia. It's 3 triplets, but it's supposed to be one person, but he splits into 3 different people because he can't control his power or something like that. But Billy can't handle the power either. So, but they make you think that Billy's gonna become the Gold Ranger. It ends up being Jason, which I think was a much better choice. Not that I have anything against Billy, you know. Billy, I think, actually tried out for Jason first. Like in the auditions. So, because Jason's more like an athletic kind of guy, but the way they dressed up Billy was like he has these baggy clothes or whatever. Like the actor David Yost, like he was physically fit. Like he wasn't like really a nerd or whatever.
Yeah, he wasn't geeky.
Yeah, he wasn't really that character. He was more like a Jason character who was like physically fit, athletic kind of guy. But for whatever reason, they decided with Austin St. John. I'm fine with that. Like, I love, like, that's my favorite character. Like I said.
I wonder if they picked that particular cast because of Beverly Hills 90210. The shots, the way it's done, the way the actors look, there's a lot of similarities there.
Like, didn't Aaron Spelling have, like, stock in Fox?
I believe he did, yeah, because he had Melrose Place, he had Models Inc., he had all his shows.
You know, now that you mention that, like,
They could have crossed over.
Like now that you mentioned that part though, like I really feel like I heard something about Tori Spelling trying to get on the Power Ranger show.
That could have been interesting.
I'm gonna have to look that up later on, but I feel like I've heard that before over the years. My brain's not all there when it comes to this stuff, but I feel like I've heard that before.
Look, I think Disney should make this happen. They should get the Saved by the Bell rights, completely get the Beverly Hills 90210 rights, do a universe building thing with the Power Rangers.
I'm totally for Mr. Belding as Zordon.
Yeah.
Screech could be Alpha, unless he's doing like porn now or celebrity boxing or something.
Well, speaking of porn,
oh jeez,
did you ever hear rumors about Austin St. John?
Yes, I did hear that. I didn't hear it until like later on, like I think that was like in the 2000s or something like that. I heard about that. The guy really. Like the guy that really is the person. I don't remember his name. I think it's like Rocky or something. But I guess kind of facially they look alike. But like this dude was like Arnold Schwarzenegger big.
Yeah.
So whatever. I mean, neither here nor there. But it wasn't him. Austin St. John actually kind of went like AWOL after the show, but he ended up becoming like an EMT in like overseas in the military. So, yeah.
Yeah, the show was loaded with.
I think when they left, the three original the non-union actors, Zach Trini and Jason, I believe they tried to come out with like a Western show or movie with the three of them. I don't remember the name of it, but it sounds familiar. If you want to look it up afterwards and add it in there. But I feel like that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, there was not just the racial controversy, but there have been a number of controversies with the show in terms of the feeling that it had a bad influence on kids. So it was like, we talked in a Rambo episode a few weeks ago about the fact that they were glorifying war and it was a Vietnam vet type of character and you're marketing to kids and you got these toy guns. There was a whole complaint about that back in the 80s. And even with Turtles, there was controversy over them either being too scary or kids wanting to buy nunchucks and fight each other with it. But Power Rangers had a lot of incidents where kids would reenact those fight scenes, and I think there was one story like in Holland or someplace where there was like a fight between two kids. One of them died because they watched Power Rangers. Like they were constantly being blamed for that type of stuff going on.
I mean, especially in like 2019, like everybody's super sensitive about any topic.
Yeah, now.
But I guess it kind of was like super sensitive back then. You just didn't really hear about it as much. But I remember hearing a story about a kid breaking his brother's neck wrestling. Like, where are the parents? Like, watch your kids. Like, if your fucking kid gets nunchucks and smacks his head open, like, that's on you. Like, the Power Rangers was never supposed to be, like, some kind of negative thing. Like, it was always positive. Like, why couldn't it be where, like, oh, I'm watching Power Rangers, my kid's watching Power Rangers, that's going to get them into martial arts. Why couldn't it be that? Why did it have to be, oh, they're making my kids act like fucking assholes? That's on you.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's on you. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's unacceptable.
And there were there's a belief there was a little bit of a curse with the show, too, because the actress who played Trini died in a car crash.
Yeah, but that was, like, much later. I mean, and that had nothing to do with the show.
What about the one guy that played one of the monsters who got arrested for murder?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but still, like,
It's not funny.
I guess it's kind of, I guess you could call it a curse, People make choices in life. I mean, what can I tell you?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe these people were stressed out from being non-union, but that's the choice you make.
Yeah.
And I'm a union worker. Like, right now, I'm a union worker. I cannot be non-union, so...
Yeah, don't blame me with that, man. Why don't we jump ahead to 2017 movie? Because there's a lot we could talk about with this. So, at that point, now, I think Power Rangers was still kind of on the air. Like, there were still some shows going on.
Well, Power Rangers has been nonstop since 93. It's still going today. I mean, it's never stopped. There's a season every year.
But I think there was definitely the sense that, with the success of Transformers and this nostalgia kick in Hollywood, that that had to be the next thing to adapt as, a standalone, start it all over type of deal. And the director who did that movie, he did that Time Machine film that was like the found footage movie. I've drawn a blank on the name of it.
I'm not really a big movie buff like that,
Yeah.
so I couldn't even help you on that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it was like this guy worked in Paramount, and this was obviously a Lionsgate movie.
Right.
But anyway, so they basically kind of changed a couple things around from the TV show. It's the same five original characters, except now they make Billy black and he's gay. They make Zach into like a.
Well, Billy's not gay. He's autistic.
Oh, right.
Trini's
gay.
Trini's gay.
I don't know why I get that mixed up.
That's all right.
There's a whole joke about, oh, I'm black, I'm blue. But they changed some of the races around, but essentially they make more of an edgier, grittier looking Angel Grove than what you're used to in a TV show. And the same idea of here's Zordon taking these 5 kids, he needs them to save the world. Here's Rita Repulsa, now played by Elizabeth Banks, who I'm not a fan of right now, but that's a separate issue. And it's the same. It's basically like the pilot of the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, you got your general formula for Power Rangers: 5 teenagers with attitude, maybe. Zordon and Alpha. They come from another planet. The differences in this is that Zordon was actually the original Red Ranger, and Rita's the Green Ranger in this movie. At the beginning, they're speaking their own different language from whatever planet that they're from. And then you see Zordon call Alpha and tell him to send the bomb at these coordinates, and they get blown up. But Alpha somehow gets Zordon's spirit into the ship that I guess you can call it their command center. So now he's like the living ship, where you see the face in the wall of the ship. Not really like a tube, but almost like how what was the Terminator where they have like that cybernetic skin. It's almost like that.
Yeah, the endoskeleton.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. Like you see it move. What's cool about it though is that Zordon is Bryan Cranston,
which I thought was spot on casting.
Well, what's cool about it is that Bryan Cranston is actually part of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers because he did voices for the monsters.
Oh, wow.
And they chose his last name as Billy's last name, Billy Cranston.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
There you go. He's still Billy Cranston in that movie, in the 2017 movie. So props to him for. I thought he played Zordon great.
Yeah.
There's something about his voice I really like too.
Well, he's just phenomenal.
Well, I mean, Breaking Bad is awesome, and even Malcolm in the Middle, he played a totally different role in that. But everything he does is really cool.
I remember when I saw the trailers for this, and I even told you this looks like a ghetto I'd say by the bell.
Yeah.
But at first I had no interest in it because again I'm not the biggest Power Rangers fan in the world. I was gonna wait for this on video, and when I did see it, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
I remember buying tickets in advance because I love Power Rangers. I still love Power Rangers, and that's probably never gonna change. But I took my whole family with me, and I know my wife's not a Power Ranger fan. I thought maybe I could get my kids to get into it, and my daughter actually loved the Trini character. This was a few years ago though, but they deal with teenage drama, bullying at school and things like that. So I guess it's relatable to children of today.
Right.
But I loved the whole cast. Like I said, I watched it last night just as a refresher. But I'm really upset that we're not gonna get another movie with this cast.
Yeah.
There were a lot of parts in this movie where it really draws you in emotionally. I mean, spoiler alert. Billy dies at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But you see the characters grow throughout the movie. Billy pretty much is like a wuss, if you know, for lack of a better word. And, you know, Jason ends up in detention with him and defends him against the bully. And, like, I love, like, you know, Jason being this star jock looks out for this autistic kid, you know, that's not going to stand up for himself. And I thought that whole relationship was really cool. And then you see, like, Kimberly getting bullied by two other girls or whatever, and then she comes back, she's cutting her hair or whatever. The Zach character wasn't, you know, aside from his mom being, like, ill, like, I didn't really connect with him too much. And Trini had a little character development, like, when they have their, I kind of call it like the scene where, like in the original Ninja Turtles movie, where they have the bonfire.
That was my favorite scene.
Yeah, well, you know, that's basically what makes them, because they couldn't get the armor,
right,
because they didn't really know each other. So Zach's like, why don't we all just like reveal a secret about each other here and get to know each other a little better or whatever. And you know, that's where you see, like, you know, Trini comes out as gay and you know, things like that. But Kimberly was the only one that didn't really reveal anything at the time. She does later on in the movie, but that's a great scene, you know.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole tone and direction that they took really made it a little bit more interesting and gave it more depth than the TV show ever did.
I wasn't really a big fan of the actual. They called them coins, but they weren't really coins. They were like, you know, stones.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't really a big fan of that. And I don't know. I don't recall them getting a morpher in the movie. Like, they just morph. Like,
yeah, they just
like it just shows up on their skin. But we got a toy where it's a morpher. But like, what were those toys called? Where you hold it up to your face and like it had the little film on it, and you click it down.
Oh, like the viewfinder.
Viewfinder, yeah. Right. So it kind of looked like that. Like it spins the gem, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, the toys from the movie weren't really that great. The Funko Pops are pretty cool because they did come out with a Rita and Zed as the Rita and Zordon as the Rangers, the Green and Red Ranger. Like, they have the broken visor or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they the suits themselves, they weren't bad, but I know the biggest criticism was it just looked like the Iron Man suit.
I mean, I didn't really like love them, but I didn't hate them either. I wasn't really a big fan of the Zords.
Yeah,
or at least the Megazord. The Megazord was really weird.
I also didn't like Goldar, like when she becomes Goldar.
I mean, but that's also like, you know, if you think back to Goldar, he was like a gold monkey in the original show, but like then we get this like melted gold being, whatever. Like, Rita's like killing people, taking their gold teeth.
He looked like the Destroyer from Thor.
Yeah. That's a good you know,
if it was like melting,
that's a good comparison. Yeah, but yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Goldar either. And like, if you look at the toys for that, like they're trash. Like,
yeah.
The Goldar figure, I believe they had a putty figure, which we didn't even talk about the putties.
Yeah, we never talked about the putties.
But they were just the biggest part of the show as the Rangers. But yeah, the toys for this line were really not that great.
Yeah, and you know, I'm even looking at the Alpha figure right now. I thought Bill Hader was pretty funny.
Bill Hader did a good job.
But Alpha looked too scary.
I didn't really love the look of him either. I did think it was funny when like they first meet Alpha and he's basically just manhandling all of them. Like, I like that part. You know, he wasn't taking no shit.
I'd say one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and it still makes me laugh to this day, the whole Krispy Kreme subplot.
I mean, people were like really upset about that. Like, oh man, this is such cheesy advertising for obviously someone that's a sponsor of the movie or whatever. But like, when have we not seen that? Like, Ninja Turtles had what, Pizza Hut or Domino's in the original one. Like, you see Coca-Cola in all these movies and shit. Like, get over it. Like,
Yeah, but I just like the whole gag when
Yeah,
Reed is
where's my Zeo crystal? It's at Krispy Kreme.
magical place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like they even used that scene in the as the commercial for Krispy Kreme,
Yeah.
like with her eating the donut.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't bother me. I got really hyped though in the theater when they start playing the Go Go Power Rangers.
Same here. The goosebumps
Yeah,
went
like
over my head.
you see the Zords like
Yeah.
running, like that was awesome.
And I like that they weren't a big deal of a cameo, but at least we got some original Rangers in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knew they would, eventually somebody would be in the movie. Obviously, Jason David Frank pretty much is the person you think of when you think of Power Rangers, so you knew they were gonna have him, and then also Amy Jo Johnson, Kimberly, you know. Then it makes you wonder, like, are they playing the characters that they played on the show? Is this canon? Are they together right now?
Are we doing a multiverse?
Yeah, yeah, because like Tommy ends up with Catherine on the show because Kimberly leaves. So,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. So, as you said, I mean, the show's still going on, and as we're wrapping up, you mentioned before about Hasbro buying the rights for the Power Rangers for future toys, and
Well, I mean, Saban sold the rights originally to Disney for a few like there was a few years there where like it was on ABC, which is part of Disney.
yeah, it was on ABC Family.
We got quite a few good seasons out of it. I guess obviously like you're getting older, but like if you're still a fan, but you're getting older, so maybe your interest isn't as great as it used to be. But I definitely recommend for those who want to go back and watch um, Power Rangers SPD and Power Rangers RPM are like two really good seasons from the Disney era. I definitely recommend them. Like they kind of have like this dark tone to them, especially RPM. You will see a few actors that you recognize now probably. Um, RPM had Eka Darvold. If you know him, he was from Jessica Jones.
Okay.
He was like the drug addict neighbor or
Yes.
whatever. Rose McIver is also on there.
Mm-hmm.
She's on that show. Was it iZombie or something?
Yeah, I think so.
On the CW. Yeah, but there's a few people you'll recognize them. You might have seen elsewhere after that. But then Saban gets the rights back, and now they're airing on Nickelodeon. And we get Super Samurai, Dino Charge. We get a few seasons there. But those were more like the anniversary seasons. So we got like, there was an episode from Japan. It's called like The Great Battle 99. But you see like every Ranger.
Mm.
I definitely recommend watching it. The American version of it's not that great. But if you watch the Japanese version, it's really cool. It's on YouTube. Look it up. But then, like now where we're at now, like Hasbro owns the rights to it. So obviously, they've released some toys now. I don't know what we're gonna get in the future, and as far as like the actual show, like what they're gonna do with it. I was kind of hoping we'd get a sequel to the 2017 movie. Because they leave it open that Tommy's there at the after
make Tommy into a girl.
Yeah, like the after credits, like he's like the teacher is calling Tommy Oliver, and then you see like the bathroom blow up or whatever.
Right.
So obviously you think like that person got the green coin and it exploded or whatever. Yeah, it kind of disappoints me that we're not gonna get that cast. But I hope they do something good as far as another movie coming out.
Yeah, I'm hoping because there's been some rumors they want to try to tie it in with like other Hasbro properties, like maybe Transformers, maybe.
Well, they do a lot of that. If you follow comic books, like they've already done like Ninja Turtles meets Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Batman and Ninja Turtles just came out with a movie on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I just watched that recently.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. They do a like Transformers meets Ghostbusters. Like all that stuff's going on in the comic world. If I know we live in a digital age, but like go out and buy a comic book. There's a lot of cool stuff, especially 80s kids and 90s kids like going on all these crossovers. Like they're coming out with Power Rangers. and Ninja Turtles, not like the one from Power Rangers in space, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like we know that's the version we wanted to get as a kid, not the in space version. And Saban had that Ninja Turtle show, The Next Mutation.
Yep. Yeah.
Not too many people were fans of it, and like we got a girl Ninja Turtle or whatever. That people weren't really a fan of. Although now in 2019 we also got another new girl Ninja Turtle, and people seem to love her. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you on everything. I do wish that they made a sequel to the 2017 movie, and hopefully, if there is another film down the line, it could still stick with like that same theme, and not change a whole lot of it. But I mean, time will tell. We'll see what Hasbro
Yeah,
does.
Dacre Montgomery went on to do Stranger Things. Like he's pretty well known for that.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
He was Billy in season 2 and 3, who turns out to be like a really big villain in the that series. Um, Becky G does mostly music, but Naomi Scott, she just recently did Jasmine in the live action version of Aladdin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's also a Disney movie called what was it called? Lemon Mouth. It was like a musical, but it was pretty good. I think I had one of the Jonas Brothers in it. If you like musical movies, not really like Broadway musical, but like it had like good music in it.
Yeah.
We didn't really touch on the Turbo movie though.
Yeah.
Not that there's much to touch on. I think the fan base kind of turned on them because like they wanted to be Justin. They wanted to be the kid that gets recruited by the Power Rangers.
Yeah, and he gets his suit. He suddenly like ages 10 times over.
Yeah, like when he morphs, his body pretty much grows.
He goes Shazam mode.
Yeah, he grows with the suit. So yeah, like we'll touch on it real quick. So like in the Turbo movie, Rocky's the Blue Ranger at this point, and he gets injured at the karate tournament at the beginning. He like falls over the ring or whatever, and he hurts his back. And Justin goes to visit him in the hospital, and like the other Rangers go to visit him in the hospital, but Justin like hides under the hospital bed, and he hears like Zordon talking to them, and like they teleport or whatever. So now he knows like he knows their identities or whatever. But I guess because Rocky's injury, he couldn't be a Power Ranger anymore. For whatever the real behind the scenes reasons was. Like I don't know why he left the show.
Yeah.
But they decide to have this kid become the Blue Ranger in the movie. And this time it's canon with the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the second movie is a Fox production.
Yeah, I could tell because it looks very cheap.
Yeah. But we did get a return of Kimberly and Jason in that as well.
They come back, but they spend most of the movie capture.
Well, yeah, basically they get turned bad by the villain in the movie. I think it's Divatox is the villain in the movie. But anytime I see Jason and Tommy fight, I love it. I love it because it's like who's the alpha male?
Right, it's like Ryu and Ken.
Yeah, pretty much. Like everybody's got their rival or whatever, But I think Jason owns the head-to-head battles on the show.
Yeah.
If I go back and look.
I think like even when he first appeared, like didn't he win the tournament against Jason?
I think it was a tie. I think they draw.
Oh,
I think they draw at the beginning. But like Jason even fights Tommy while he's morphed as the Green Ranger and beats him. So, like I'm a Jason guy,
Yeah.
Like the logo for Power Rangers is the Red Ranger.
Yeah.
But people are more synonymous with Tommy, I think it's more because like he's the first one we saw as this hidden ranger, and he has a cool like armor, the armor chest plate or whatever, and he starts off evil. So I think people were more interested in that, and that's why they gravitated more towards him. Like even when he becomes the White Ranger, he gets the cool armor again, Then finally in Zeo, Jason becomes that cool Sixth Ranger.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right, so let's wrap this up. So as always, you could follow the Silver Screen Action Figure Podcast on our Facebook page by liking us. Follow us on Twitter at SilverscreenAF1. If you have comments, questions, or suggestions for future episodes, email me at silverscreenafpodcast@gmail.com. Jesse, plug your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do a pop culture show called Cheap Pop Culture. Um, it's kind of on hold right now until I decide to come up with my next topic. But you can hit me at all my social media at Shaolin Sane. Um, that's really it for me.
All right, awesome, man. Well, thank you again for coming back on.
Thanks
This
for
was a
having
real
me.
pleasure and a good education for me to
Yeah,
get
I
back on.
mean, I feel like there could be a part two of this if we ever wanted to touch more on the later series. But I think we hit all the good points from Mighty Morphin on.
Yeah, most definitely. And definitely the next episode is going to be focused on all things Star Wars as we wrap up the year as The Rise of Skywalker comes out, and we'll have some more thoughts about The Mandalorian. So until next time, I'll see you guys at the movies.